So welcome to a new episode of the Finc Tank. I finally got Ross Longmore on. So for those of you who don't know Ross, he is got the world's longest job title. I'm going to try and remember it. The Director of AML Fraud and Sanctions and Ongoing Monitoring at Tide.
Yeah,
Close?
well, I think Tide call it the Director of Ongoing Monitoring. I kind of put it in brackets at the end so people kind of knew what it was, because ongoing monitoring is a bit of a Tideism. So I kind of just put, well, it means this at the end, just in case nobody knew.
Yeah, the ongoing monitoring. I'm recruiting a few roles in it at the moment. So as always, I try and go a bit diary of a CEO because I think that's who I am now. And I think it's quite important that we dive into. It'd be interesting to talk about your career now, obviously, but before that, I'd like to go backwards. So, where'd you grow up?
I'm not going to cry. So it's not going to be
What's the most traumatic thing that's happened to you?
Please don't. This podcast.
Talking to me. So let's go back. Your family situation. So you obviously didn't grow up in London, unless you're putting on the accent?
No.
Right.
It's quite a hard accent to put on, I think, the Yorkshire one as well. No, I was born in a little town called Ossett, just next to Wakefield in Yorkshire. So both my parents are from Sheffield, but they split up when I was 8. So I lived with my mum and my stepdad in Ossett, and then kind of went to Sheffield every weekend. So I'm a big Chef Wednesday fan as well. So that was a bit of a part of my upbringing, I would say.
Well, my grandma's from Sheffield, so we're probably related.
It's a great city.
That's how it all goes. Your first role from your LinkedIn, you can correct me, in this kind of foray of fin crime and banking and financial services was at KPMG.
Yeah.
Did you know anyone that had been working in consulting, or like what was the people around you kind of doing?
No, I had no idea. So I at university I didn't do that well. So I'm not very good when I'm not really into something. I either kind of go obsessive or zero. There's no middle ground with me. Yeah. So when I was at university, I did maths, and it just didn't. You
did maths at university?
Yeah.
Who picks that?
I know. Tell me about it. So when I was at high school and sixth form, they were like, "You're good at maths. You should do maths." And that was just the advice you got. So I went and did maths. And then the first year was fine because they were at university because they were catching up people that hadn't done further maths and stuff that I'd done at.
So you were quite nerdy at school.
Yes, I would say so. The in-betweeners is very much a picture of my life at school. And yeah, so then they caught everybody up. So the first year kind of gave me a false sense of security. I was like, this is easy. I can do this. Second and third year did not go like that. So, and then I finished uni and I was like, I don't really know what to do now. So I wanted to go traveling. So me and my girlfriend at the time, that's now my wife, we got jobs in Sheffield, in a bar, and she was a waitress. I was in a bar and she was a waitress. Then we went traveling. And then at the end of traveling, I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do now. Yeah. So, and I'd always fancied, I just had this picture in my head. I wanted to work in a suit in Canary Wharf. That's all I decided. I don't know where it came from. Nobody in my family did. My mum worked in a post office and then for a local college. And then my dad used to be an account manager, just driving up and down, kind of selling DIY products and stuff. No background in it at all. I just kind of had this picture in my head. I wanted to do it. And then I was like, banks sound a bit boring. Consultancy sounds quite cool. And then I was like, I can't go on the grad scheme, so I ain't got a good enough degree. So they had a school leaver scheme, and it didn't say you couldn't have anything. So I just applied for the school leaver scheme, and then managed to get on it. And they must have been thinking, who's this guy that's I already look old, never mind compared to an 18-year-old. And they must have been like, who's this guy applying for the school leaver scheme?
They're probably too worried about age discrimination stats, not let you through there.
I know, this big
diversity hire.
6'4" old looking bloke coming in for a school leader scheme.
They might have thought it was like a trick.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah. So I was 21 and then applied on that. And I don't know why I didn't really have in my mind of a backup. I just went, I'll just apply for this KPMG one. And then I got an interview.
Oh yeah, only KPMG, don't worry about it.
No, I didn't.
Do you know what I mean? It's a big deal for you to kind of just blag and decide you wanted to do it.
I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find that much of the others were doing it. So I found this apprentice scheme. I was like, that sounds all right. It sounds like I can get a bit of a loophole. Let's do that. So I applied there and then got in. But it was in London, and it was just above minimum wage. So I had to move to London with basically no money. So my wife took a waitressing job when we moved down, and I was there, and she was subsidising me.
Isn't that amazing?
At KPMG, basically, for
the power
of
a good partner
years.
When you're launching your career, I think is invaluable, not spoken about. Talking about the school leaver scheme, I was actually chatting with a guy that I know yesterday. He was trying to get his son into financial crime, and I looked at all the internships, and they all require degrees. And I just think it's so counterintuitive because look at you, big dog.
Don't say things like me.
But already, like, I know you do have a degree, but like, it opened a door for you and was the launch of a career, and it used a skill set that was already there, but just maybe, like you say, university isn't for everyone. Some people pick the wrong degree. Sometimes it's just really boring. You might be at the wrong university. So it's a shame we don't see, I mean, the consultancies still do it, but it's a shame we don't see many of them anymore.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the consultancies thrive on it. Like,
Yeah.
they hire a bunch of really smart, keen young people, and then just let them bubble up. You get caught up in this kind of rat race because it's like this just world that sucks you in, and then people just move up, right? And realistically, they're getting really smart people for not that much money, and then they're moving up the ranks, and they don't get paid as much as if they had to pull something externally. So, and it works out really well. Like the amount of people that I'm still in touch with at KPMG, because I made really good mates there, because it's like this intense environment that kind of like pushes you together. And I'm still mates with tons of the people. One of them's one of my best friends that worked for me there actually, and now he's kind of a peer. And yeah, you kind of get forced into this bubble, and then there's all these really smart, ambitious young people that are just flooding up, and it completely is the lifeblood of them. Like if they struggled on that, they would really struggle, I think, all the big fours.
And they get criticised for it, don't they? Like if KPMG won a project at one of my clients and they bosh in a bunch of juniors, it's such a visible disrespect to the client, or, you know, but actually I've had this discussion on the podcast before about how there's just no training ground for juniors anymore. Banks don't take them. First line operations is moving out of London. It's on its way out. Like, so if we don't support this function, we don't support people going into the sector, we're going to be in a big trouble in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really tough. Like, there's still some sites. Like, there's sites for operations in Wales. There's like operations in Cardiff and places like that, which is good. I'm a big advocate for pushing stuff out of London as well. I
agree.
Right? Like, because there's so much talent around the UK now, and especially after COVID, when everybody kind of dispersed, right?
It's a crying shame, actually, because there's a lot of the KYC analysts and a lot of the really good transaction monitoring analysts. They moved out of London during COVID, and now they can't come down and work in London on $250 a day because the train ticket's almost half of that.
I mean, my team now at Tide, I think I've got one person in London. The rest are dispersed around. I've got Liverpool, York, Edinburgh, Somerset.
Somerset.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. I spoke to someone the other day who lives in Cornwall, and I'm like, I kind of hate you.
I know. Just a delightful beach in the morning is very different to what I wake up to.
Yeah, 100%. Just very quickly touching on those first couple of years at KPMG, I'm interested to know the spread of people there. Is it as people think that it's like stale, male, middle class?
So when I joined on the school leaver scheme, that was really diverse. There was lots of people from different backgrounds, mostly around the London area, but like lots of different backgrounds, genders, ethnicities. It was great. It was really good, the school leaver scheme, actually. But the grad scheme was not as much. I would say like they'd focused a lot. They started focusing a lot more on the gender split when I'd got there, but like actual socioeconomic background was not diverse. Like I was the only one with a northern accent I can't remember another that was on that was on the grad scheme.
Do you remember? I think there was a CEO from KPMG. He's a Yorkshireman. John, was he the CEO? I don't know. He's a Yorkshireman, and it was such a big news article that they had someone with an accent in a senior position in a Big Four, and I was like, with my little Kiwi accent, like, what the hell?
I know. It's good. It's good that they're kind of like they've definitely, like, since I've left, like they're definitely pushing like to try and balance the socioeconomic stuff. But I mean, really, there was like a load of documentaries, wasn't there, about like 8 out of 10 of the people that are working there are from private schools and stuff like that. The partner that I ended up working for did not have that background. He was like from Wythenshawe in Manchester, so he was similar to me. So I think there was a bit of an affinity there when I met him, and that's who I worked for pretty much all my time at KPMG, which was good. But like, it did feel like you were the odd one out, so to speak. I met loads of mates there, and like I got tons of mates at KPMG which were great. But like, we ended up like I was in the data team, and I think our data team was a bit of a ragtag bunch than some of the other teams, and that's why I think we had a really tight knit team, because everybody had a bit like was from a little bit of a different background to the rest of it. But like the general grad scheme that came in when I came into the IT audit grad scheme, it was predominantly people from around the London area, like privately or grammar school educated, that kind of thing. Like the first conversation at lunch was like, "Where's your favourite place to ski?" And I was like, "I've never been skiing. Like, I don't know anybody that has been skiing." Like,
but those kind of it's funny you say that. Like those kind of questions are quite ostracizing to someone who already might have a chip on their shoulder about an accent or their background, and they just feel othered. And that's probably potentially why, I'm speculating here, the retention rate isn't as high, because, you know, you can't assimilate as much as you would hope.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't on purpose, right? Everybody was really welcoming, and like because I didn't know anybody that I spoke to, I was just said yes to anything. So like, do you want to come here? Yeah, go on then. And they were like, oh, I think they probably went, oh, I didn't really mean to that you should come. Just got this random northern guy coming now, but like it was fine in the end, and like I got some good mates, but like there's no doubt that like there's like this subconscious kind of feeling of being a bit different.
But there's something in that, and jumping in feet first and saying yes, because you can set yourself apart by believing yourself apart. That doesn't sound too stupid. I don't know if that made sense, but you know what I mean? Like if you think, oh, they're posh and they go and do this, and they go to raffles on the weekend, and I go to Wetherspoons, you've got to try and be part of the culture.
Yeah.
Whether it be a new country or a new company or anything. So you're in the data team, then you went to really sexy sounding IT audit.
I started in IT audit on the grad scheme. I did 6 months of that. It wasn't that interesting, but like I did it and it was fine. And it was interesting to just be at work, right? And go. And the interesting bit of consultancy is you get put on client side. So it was day 3 and they were like, yeah, you need to go meet the client. And I was like, what? I don't know what I'm doing. And they were like,
what?
Yeah, you're just going to have to go meet them. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just
what, you turn up with your little notepad and
I'm a little laptop that doesn't have the right access still because it's 3 days in kind of thing, and then rocked up and just kind of chatted to him, and it was like a Lloyd's of London insurance little office and they house the IT team for a load of the other Lloyd's of London people and it was like I was just the grad doing the IT audit, and I was there for a couple of days by myself, like trying to figure out my way of what I'm doing, and then they got like one of the managers to come along and help me, because it was quite obvious that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing.
But it's incredible that you remember that in such detail, like you were there for, like, you know, not all of us can remember our first kind of foray into our job. Must have been quite like, you must have been shitting yourself.
Yeah, quite, yeah. Quite a lot, and then just full blag. Like that was all that happened really. And then like I kinda got into it, but then I was in this team and doing that for like 6 months. And then randomly, one of the senior managers was like, and I think it must have been that they were like, "Oh, Ross is a bit useless. Like, let's just chuck him on this random project." So, and then the senior manager was like, "Do you want to come work on this job?" And I was like, "Yeah. What is it?" And he was like, "It's anti-terrorism." And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I
calling your mates up, being like,
I fight the terrorists.
I think I'm going to MI5. Like,
I'm pretty sure I went back and told my my wife, like my girlfriend at the time, and I just went, yeah, you know, I'm just working on some anti-terrorism type stuff, you know, as you do. And I was like, and then I had no idea what it was going to be. And then it was in like a locked project room with no windows for like 6 months. And I was like,
looking at transactions,
not as glamorous as I thought this was going to be. So yeah, it did. And then that's my first kind of delve into financial crime. And that was Sanctions. So I actually started in Sanctions.
What year was that?
So I finished uni in 2011. So it'd have been 2013 probably. 12.
Oh right, so was it just before it all kicked off?
It was kicking off at that point. They'd had the big fine in France, like I think just around that time, and then all the other banks were obviously a little bit nervous about it. So there's a lot of sanctions jobs going.
I know. That's when I started in Finc recruitment. It was glorious.
Remediations everywhere.
I was like,
was all
that was happening.
Yeah, this is easy.
Okay, and so how long did you hang about at KPMG? Because I know you went back, didn't you? You left and then went back.
Yeah. So I was there for, I think, about 5 years in the first stint, and I kind of went from, I was on the school leaver scheme, and then this partner that I met, like that was doing the data team. So when I did this anti-terrorism job, this sanctions job, and then I met this director through it, and then he was like, do you want to come on this other job? And I was like, yeah, all right then. And it was abroad, so I was like, yeah, of course, cool. And I had no money because I was minimum wage, so the fact that it was abroad and they would like, I got my food paid for while I was there, I was like, well, Brucey bonus, and I've just got enough money to survive the weekends kind of thing. So we did that job for like 2 years, and that's how I really got to know him. And then he, like, you're supposed to do 5 years on the school leaver scheme before you jumped out into being assistant manager, but he backed me and let me jump out at 3 years, which is the normal number of years that you would do as a grad. So I basically kind of did a grad scheme that was very poorly paid. And then he moved me into assistant manager, and then I got to manager. And then that was when I left, because I kind of got this like syndrome in my head of going, well, I always fancied investment banking. That sounds quite cool. And it sounds quite jazzy. And I didn't really think I was going to be in Finc crime. I fell in it. And you're like, it's like that kind of thought of like, have I just gone too quick? Do I need to check something else out? And my old one of my old bosses, the guys that I worked for at KPMG, had gone to Barclays in internal audit, and he was doing data analytics in internal audit. And he was like, "Oh, I need somebody to come and do the data analytics for the investment bank and internal audit at Barclays. Do you fancy it?" And I really got on with him, so I was like, "Yeah, why not?"
Also,
Let's
getting
go.
into banking at the point you did, getting from consultancy into banking is really crucial. And I think it's not spoken about enough. If someone stays in consultancy forever and then tries to come into banking as, say, a director, it's almost impossible. You need to kind of dip in and out to prove that that you can understand. It's a completely different culture, isn't it?
Massively.
Yeah.
And I struggled with it at Barclays because like the pace of work was slower. Like the stuff that I was doing was really interesting and really cool, but it was like the expectations and there wasn't really that pressure and pushing.
Yeah, well, you're not focused on
Barclays.
utilization and all that kind of stuff, right? So you're not like, how many hours have you built? It's more, have you
Yeah.
done this project? I just wanted to go back a little bit to the KPMG thing. 2 questions I had when you were just speaking. When you were abroad for the 2 years, what happened with your girlfriend at the time?
So she got a job in Dubai, and so I was flying between. I was going on the train to France to do this job, and then saving up hotel points, and then flying across to Dubai to see her, and then she would fly back. So it was like every 6 weeks we'd go between.
That is a love story.
It sounds like we had money to do this. We didn't. It was like literally beg, borrowing, and stealing to try and get between the two. But it was.
I bet all your friends thought you were like this jet-setting amazing couple, though.
My mum was baffled by the whole thing. I think because she was used to like you don't go like she's just used to you have one holiday a year, so you need to text me when you land and all that. And when I started going abroad, she was like, "Can you just text me when you get there?" And then I was like, "I'm really bored of texting when I get there. Like I'm not doing this all the time." And then she used to text me and be like, "Where are you?" I'd be like, "Dubai," and she's like, "What? You didn't tell me you were flying?" And I was like, let's just leave it. You won't worry as much. I'll just do what I do, and it's fine. So yeah, it was a wild time. Like I just lived out of a suitcase for 2 years.
I suppose you can do in those younger days, can't you? No bother.
Yeah, and I had like a token room in Poplar just above Canary Wharf, so I could walk into the office if I needed to, and it was pretty bad. Like my mate came to stay once, and he was like, "Are you really living here?" And I was like, "Well, I can't afford anything else, mate." He's like, "What?" I was like, "What do you want me to do?" Like,
that was before popular was popular.
Yeah.
The other question I had about that was when you were at KPMG, you were assistant manager and then you made manager, didn't you, when you were there?
Yeah, I got to manage it. Yeah.
How big was the team you were managing?
So I think it was different back then. So when I was an assistant manager, Robert won't say this, but it definitely happened. I sold my first piece of work when I was an assistant manager because I got the extension work on the project he put me on. So I ended up having 4 people in my team, and that was, and he literally just went, "There's the contract, deliver it." And then I was
How old were you?
And then I was off. 24.
Wow, at 24. I was not like that.
No, I really enjoyed it. Like I said about the 0-100 thing, like I'm quite obsessive. So when we did this job, I just got really involved with like Focussoft, the sanction screening tool. Yeah. Nobody really knows how to use it that well. Well, me and the team that I had, we basically taught ourselves the language that you write the rules in, which is like a weird coding language, and we just figured out how to do it. And then that was it. There, we had this really
invaluable
niche,
though.
Yeah, with this really niche skill set that I don't think many people know how to do it.
Even still today, like it's impossible to find people that can do the coding and the tuning on any FinCrum systems, and you were doing it back then.
Yeah. That was what the team developed into. Like the partner, he used to be a coder as well. And then when I got to Paris, I'd seen somebody doing SQL, and I was like, that looks quite fun. So I just started teaching myself how to do SQL.
You know that sounds really nerdy, right? That sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm completely aware. I'm self-aware.
All street
of this.
cred's going.
Yeah. Not that I had any to begin with, but I'm definitely in the negatives now. If any credits were there, but yeah. So I just started doing that, and then messing around with Python and that, and then kind of taught ourselves that, and then. Like I said, all this bunch of people that were there, they were all kind of into that. So we all just started teaching ourselves coding, and then like we started messing around with transaction screening tools and sanction screening tools and the rules in them, and like we basically got to a point where we could like automate a lot of our jobs. I mean, I think we were all just basically inherently lazy and just tried to automate ourselves.
Laziness breeds like ingenuity, I think.
I think so, right? Everybody in my team, I remember they'd be going, "I'm not doing that every week," and then they'd just be like, "I've automated it." Like,
yeah, but that's the dream. Just don't tell anyone that you've automated it, and no one knows. Yeah,
it was. So we did that and did all the tuning. And that's what we. So that was my first job, and there was 4 people in that team. And apart from one of the guys that we had problems with, but two of them I'm still really good mates with now.
Yeah.
Like I was at the wedding of one of the guys like at the start of the year. I'm gonna see him this weekend, and then the other girl, she was in a different team, and we kind of brought her in as a grad.
Yeah.
So it was me and Rob for a while doing it, and then we brought Arabi came in from a different team, and then we kind of taught her, and she knew no SQL or anything, and then we just kind of did this project and saddled by. There was a lot of late nights till like 1 a.m. and stuff, and
I never
and
understand
things like
that.
where
Like consulting, the hours you work are just like.
It was more because we'd just bitten off more than we can chew, and like I think what is like the kind of story of our career is like of my career is just being like I kind of backed the teams that I had, and I go, yeah, we can do that. No idea whether I could or not, but I'd be like, we'll figure out a way. It's fine,
Yeah,
and
but
then
if
we'll just do it.
To sound philosophical again, if you live within the limitations that you currently have, you're never going to progress, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you've got to be forced with the challenge to make that leap, I think. As long as you're not promising to do open heart surgery, I think.
Yeah, well, it definitely was. It was like the timelines, right? We knew we could do things, but we were like, we didn't know whether we could use code and automate some of this stuff, or whether it was feasible. We'd just be like, well, we'll figure it out. It's fine.
And we'll figure it out to clients or internally.
Internally, never to clients. We'd be like to clients, we're like, we can definitely do this. Like, and we never missed anything. It was fine, but like the timelines.
Done it several times.
Yeah, the amount of, like any consultant that turns around and says they know at the start of a project that they can definitely meet the timelines is completely lying. Like that is never the case. You definitely go into a job going, I've got a rough idea of what this is going to look like, and I think I could do it in the time. But if not, we're pulling some shifts to do it.
We'll figure it out, and we'll just work a little bit later. Yeah,
exactly.
Fine. Okay, so you're in Barclays. It's different, interesting by the sounds of things, but a little bit slower paced than you.
Yeah, so I carried on the coding. So I got to do a bit more instead of like managing the teams and managing the clients and budgets and projects and stuff. I kind of went and did this to do a bit more like kind of individual contributor stuff. So I was like, I quite want to work on some of the different technologies. That's what I was. That's what was offered, and I could go and do a different area. Right, it was like a safe space to go and do investment banking stuff in. So because you're an internal audit, right? So you're not on the front line. You're just figuring out what they do, and then if they've got gaps, basically. And it was a cool year, but the culture's different. I met tons of really cool people, but at the average age of people in there was like significantly different to KPMG. Like I was used to people that were all my age or a little bit younger that I was managing, and then you go to a bank and it's a real mixed bag, right?
So you're managing people older than yourself there?
No, I was by myself. It was fine. That came kind of later in my career when I managed people that were older than me. But that one was me by myself doing the event because they didn't have somebody to do the investment banking before. So I went and did it, and then just worked with the internal audit team and like automated some stuff, played around with like graph databases and things like that, and it was good. And the most thing that I learned there was just management style, like the way the manager worked with me. Like I think he was really into coaching before coaching was kind of the fad that it is now, right? You just didn't hear of it back then. And he was really into it. And the way that he just kind of worked me, like I was like, how is he doing this? So at the end, I kind of sat him down. And I was like, how have you made me do all these things without me even realizing? And he was like, well, I just figured out quite quickly that if I tell you somebody else can't do it, you'll just go and try and do it until like you'll just keep going, and then like I'll make it a game. And he was like, so I don't really need to do much management. I just tell you that, and then you're off. And I was like, right. And then,
dare you to do it.
and on my one-to-ones, he was like, I sat down, and he would be going, okay, tell me 3 things you've learned this week. And I'd be like, and I've just never got asked those questions. Like they weren't ever like when I was managed before, it was never like somebody holding up a mirror to you. It was like, have you done this thing? Are we on track? Let's go.
Transactional would be fair to say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you just it's discrete pieces of work that you need to deliver.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it, basically. And you kind of crack on. It's really up to you in the consultancy world as to what kind of manager you want to be. But like the example you get set, I would say, is not the coaching type. It's more of the apply pressure until somebody can do it. Yeah, of course. Like type.
Because you're more KPI'd in a consultancy, I assume. Like
kind of, yeah. Like it's more just like you've got this contract, it's got to be done.
Yeah.
End of. Like there's no that's what we told the client, and it needs to be really high quality. There's no.
Yeah.
Can't get away from that. Otherwise, you're not going to get more work. So it has to be great. You have to be good with the client. You have to give it on time, and that kind of thing. So whereas when I moved to Barclays, there was a bit more space to think about yourself. Like he definitely made you be more self-reflective, and I just saw a really different way of managing.
And how did you implement that because you went back to KPMG?
it was just a bit of a light bulb moment, really. I didn't really like actively think about it. I just kind of went, I've been doing this really wrong. Like, I don't think I've been managing the best. And like, luckily I'm still like I said, really good mates with the first people I managed. But like, if I talk to them, they'd be like, yes, it wasn't the best management style to begin with.
Can you describe it? Like, can you give me an example of something that just makes you cringe?
Oh God, no. like they'd just be like, I just wasn't like, my idea was I wanted a really high standard and I just wasn't accepting anything lower. And like if
football coachy, but not coachy.
Yeah, and if something came in and I'd just be like, no, do it again.
Yeah, right.
Like I'd just be like, no, that's not right. You're gonna have to do it again. And like I was always like having a laugh and a joke and a smile. Like I'm not like I'm
Tyrant.
generally like have quite a happy disposition. Like I'm not like like a tyrannical person. But yeah, like it was. Yeah, I just kind of like just applied pressure and didn't really. I wasn't very forgiving of things not being where I wanted them to be, which wasn't the best.
But to give you some grace, you were probably managed the same way, and you're quite young, right? Like,
yeah.
So you spoke about like wanting to work in the wharf because you saw people in suits and stuff, and you probably thought this harsh environment requires this harsh style of management. And that's what you'd seen on TV. And,
yeah, completely, right? And you're trying to fit into this mold of what you see, right? Like the northern boy that doesn't really fit in, and then there's all these guys in suits that you want to be like, and you're kind of like trying to mold yourself towards them. Where when I took a bit of time at Barclays, I was like, that was the first time where I was like, I can probably be a little bit more myself, and like.
But the authenticity, without sounding very 2000s, is what drives the respect and the credibility in leadership, right? If people can see that you're being yourself and what you're talking to them is coming from a place of actually wanting to see the best out of them, two things can be true at once. You can still demand a higher standard, but you can still look at the person and say, I can just dare you to do this and you're going to do a really good job.
Yeah, you can do it that way. Yeah, that's the way Bender loved me doing it. But yeah, it was fun. And the other thing that we did at Barclays is they had like a week off-site in internal audit. And it was incredible because and that was one of the best things I've done, where they did a lot of things around personality tests, and they made you do the Insights personality test.
Is it the colours one?
Yes.
Oh,
but it's like,
what are you? Yellow?
Oh no, I'm like 98% red.
Oh, me too.
Like, and then it was really funny on the graph. I looked at it and I sent it to my boss at the time, and he was like, I had no doubts that this was going to be. And it's like they give you like a graph when you're like subconscious, like when you're not trying, and then a graph where you're trying, and like basically the graph when I'm trying dials down the red a little bit and just puts the green up a tad. Like, but really on the left there was like no green. It was red and blue, all red and blue.
Your true colours, literally your true colours.
Yeah. I gave it to my wife and I was like, read that, and she was like, that's a bit scarily accurate. Like,
it's like your best friend's written it about you, doesn't it?
It's really odd.
It's scary. Yeah, I haven't done one for years. I wonder if mine's changed.
Probably not. But yeah, so they did all this stuff, and then one of the things that I remember that I've taken away from it and has definitely made a big difference is they did this feedback tree. So they had two sets of chairs and like 2 rows of chairs facing each other, right?
Wow.
And then everybody on this, and you didn't work with these people, you just been with them a few days. There was like guys that had been flown over from the Japan office. There was all sorts of people there, right? And you sat in 2 rows opposite each other, and then they went, right, you need to give them feedback on what you think they've been like for the past 2 days. Like, you need to tell them what you think is good and give them some constructive feedback.
What a skill to develop.
And then you just moved around like that.
That's double whammy though, isn't it? It's because it's forcing you to give constructive feedback that's not in a high pressure work environment, but also you're probably getting some very valuable insights.
And also it's just learning to be able to do that in face to face with somebody. Like a lot of the time they don't teach you that. They put you like this HR course on a presentation or a video and go, this is how you give feedback. But really nobody sits you down and goes, if you'd have phrased it that way, it probably would have landed a bit better. Have you thought about how they're going to take this, what their perception of this is, and like thinking a bit more about how somebody's going to absorb that information rather than just telling what you think your truth is, like in a way that you disregard whether they're caring about whether they're getting something from it or not. Because really, if you're giving feedback and they don't take it on and they don't absorb it, what's the point?
Or the opposite, if they take it offensively. It's interesting, like there's 2 schools of thought with leadership, is that you're either born like it's a talent or it's a skill, and I don't believe it's a talent. There's people who are naturally more leaning into leadership, but it's a skill you need to develop and learn. And if you're not taught it, and I don't think we're taught it enough, particularly in like a consultancy environment or a banking environment, recruitment's the worst. If you're a top biller, suddenly you're meant to manage someone, and top billers are not really nice people. Yeah,
I'm saying nothing.
But like it's a it's interesting that even when you weren't managing someone directly, you were on that and you were exposed to that. I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, it was really good. And that's what changed my thinking a lot. And then I just kind of came back to it and was like, okay, there's a different way to do things. And I went back, and a lot of the same people that were there before had now got more senior, and I was going back into the same team when I went back to KPMG.
To manage?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went back in as a senior manager.
Ooh.
So then it would have been, and the kind of deal that was with when I went back was I said I wanted to do more of the tool building, like the tech side of stuff, and build some tools, and then also like whatever projects you need me to do, I'll do. So then I got put on some of the big remediations, like and kind of ran those, but then at the same time was doing these like tools on the side, and like we built out a little kind of, not a product team, but like a little engineering team, like, and we started building tools that we could take to market, and that's
incredible.
That was quite fun.
I'm sure they were like, hell yeah, when you said that you wanted to come in and build tools for them.
Yeah, and I mean, I was so naive to how hard that is. So like, I managed to like sell a couple of them here and there, but then making them like mass market, I had no idea about a go-to-market strategy or selling or anything like that. And to be quite frank, when I got back and I did it, I kind of sold them a lot to clients that I already knew and already had a relationship with, and then they knew what we were about and I was about, so then it was easy. But then the new ones, I was like, I don't really like this. This isn't as much fun. I kind of like doing the do.
Hard selling also makes everyone feel a bit icky, I think. Anyone with a soul, anyway.
Yeah, it's not for me. Like, I have to say, like, I struggle with it. But yeah, going back to your point before about skill or a talent, it's an interesting question. I think I would say it's definitely a skill management that you can refine, but I think there are talents inside of it that some people have or don't have. Like, so for example, I think if you ask anybody I worked with, I reckon what they would say is that one of my talents that I'm good at is that I'm quite good at reading people and figuring out how they want to be spoken to and like something to be presented. So that's why I was always quite good at consultancy, because I was quite good at going, well, I think he likes like this, and if we present it like this and we tell it like this, like that narrative will work a bit better. And I think that really helps with management, that you can get a read of people.
Emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah, I would say my wife would say I don't have that, but let's call it that for this. I think that's something that's hard to teach somebody.
I agree.
Some people just don't get it.
I think that if you've not had the life experiences, or you've come from an environment where you haven't developed those, it's very hard to teach it. You can say you need to sit down and think about how this person wants to be, but you're right. That is a bit of a talent.
I think, to be fair, when I say talent, it's probably a learned thing, right? Like, my upbringing just wasn't the conventional thing. Like, my dad was like taking me to the football from when I was like 9, so I was just surrounded by older blokes. Like, it was only me as a kid. Like, and you're trying to converse like in these circles. You go to a state school, and like you kind of trying to keep your head down away from people that you don't want to get involved with, and that kind of thing. You figure out how to kind of navigate these people like from an early age, and then it becomes a bit more like you kind of, I didn't realize I was doing it a lot of the time, and then when I was a bit more self-aware of like, oh, like
you're mirroring,
can figure it out, right? And I'm mirroring, and I'm figuring out how to work with these people. Then I was like, okay, like this could be quite useful. And now I'm quite conscious of how I do it. But it is tight. Like, it's not natural to me to like think empathically. I would say so. I do find it quite. By the end of a work day, there's not much left of that, and that's what my wife always gets annoyed with. Like, but it's that's not my. I would far rather just be, let's get on with it. Let's do it. Code it. Do it. Like, let's be a bit more straight and blunt. But you have to try do a bit of both.
I think there's a duality there, though. Like, when you're, and don't get a big head, but when you're really good at your job and you hold yourself to a high standard, it can be hard to come down and not expect that of other people. When you innately think, well, if I can do it, and this is the standard of the team, and you're really not doing what you said you were going to do today, it's frustrating and it pisses you off. But as a leader, I guess the opportunity there, or the job there, is to sit back and say, well, why aren't they achieving it? Is it a skills gap, or is it something else going on? Or because like you say, if you just pull them aside and say, just get shit done, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it works.
and they generally find the quickest line between what they need to do, like where they are now, and what they need to do. And a lot of the time, that's not the right path for them. They probably either haven't learned something through it, or they haven't done it quite in the right way, or like they might have like kind of done something in a way that doesn't make a nice relationship with other people. It kind of causes friction within teams and things like that. Like, so I think it's important, and I really enjoy coaching now. Like, that's one of the best bit of the jobs. Like, I have a large team at Tide now, and like I actually really enjoy that side of it. My manager at Barclays was the first one, but then I was back at KPMG, and then when I went to Zeps, I met some other people that were really into coaching, and like that was what kind of enlightened me to a different way of doing it. And they're like, it's like Yoda mind tricks when you meet these people, because they like ask you questions like that kind of unpick you and hold a mirror up to you, and you don't realize they're doing it. And then by the end of it, you're like, how have you just made me just spill my
but it's so
deepest,
confronting when
darkest
people
secrets?
do it. Yeah.
Like,
And they ask you simple questions. Like, it can be something really like, and why did you do that? And you think, oh my God, I don't know.
No. A woman that I worked with at Seps, she was just incredible, and she had like 2 PhDs in like human development and all this kind of stuff. So we would talk every week for half an hour, and some of the habits that I found with her that were really good is she would always be on time, on the minute, and she would end the meeting on the minute, no more, no less. And she's like, I respect your time, you respect my time. And like, it's like this, that was one thing that I noticed. I was like, and subconsciously I was then like, well, I can't be late and I have to be finished on time.
But also,
and I
she
respect
finds
her
that
time.
I'm important. She thinks that this meeting is important. She's cleared her diary and she's not going to...
Exactly. And it's like completely present. She's never types. Like, she's never looking at a Slack or her emails or anything like that. It's completely present. And I was like, well, like that was, it was just the little things that were big. And then we would talk all the time about random stuff. And then every so often, she would just completely psychoanalyze me and tell me something. And I'd be like, yep. That's probably completely right and quite confronting. like she would be the one that would be like, you've got a massive chip on your shoulder about your background and it's not going to serve you well going forwards. And I was like, yep, thanks. Yep, that's
I'll think about that.
That's put me right in my place. Thank you very much. I don't know what to do with that, but thank you. But she would be great at like talking through those things. So that's kind of my journey of the management style, like the coaching and all that kind of stuff, and figuring out different ways of doing it. And now, I listen to a lot of podcasts about it. I enjoy I enjoy kind of the psychology side of thinking about it, and I really enjoy, like, that was kind of part of the appeal of going to Tide, was like the mass team and going like bigger. I had a big team at Zeps as well, but then like this was like double, triple the size.
Actually, let's talk about that, because just quickly, can you tell people about the role at Zeps, because that was a sexy role that you were doing that.
So it was one of your friends that actually was the recruiter on that job.
You know, can we just highlight that I got you the job at Tide, just so everyone doesn't think I can't do my job?
You did get me the job at Tide. But so I was at KPMG and been there kind of 3 and a bit years at senior manager. And I was like, I like doing the do. So I think I'd like first line roles.
Yeah,
I really like all parts of fin crime. I don't just like one of them. So like banking wasn't that appealing to me because they segregate, and I was like, I couldn't do sanctions all the time, and I couldn't just do TM. I'd get bored. So it kind of left me with like, oh, this fintech world sounds quite interesting. And I'd had a mate that had gone to Revolut, and it sounded kind of cool. And I was like, oh, I like that. The pace sounds good.
I was about to say, it keeps the pace, right?
Yeah, and then so this job came up, and I can't remember the exact title, but it was I think it was Director of Fin Crime Strategy. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I applied for the job through the recruiter, went through the interview process, and luckily got it. And throughout it, like, there was a couple of really cool things there. So the guy that hired me, he was brilliant. So after the first interview, I was sold by him being my boss. I really liked his attitude.
Isn't that important, right?
Like, massively. And then the other thing that he did that sealed the deal even more for me, he made it so my second interview was I got interviewed by the 2 people that would be my direct reports.
But doesn't that show you immediately the value, trust, and the culture? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I literally had a conversation with someone yesterday, and she wasn't involved at all in the hiring of her direct boss. Mm-hmm. And I was like, not even a coffee, not even if I was a leader, that would raise so many alarm bells, because it's secrecy, it's like cloaking,
Exactly right. Yeah. And are you actually picking this person for the best of me? Because generally, if you're putting somebody over the top of somebody, it's either they've not been quite able to step up, or like you know what I mean, or like you need some coaching or something like that. There's generally a reason that means that you can't take the person below them and put them in those shoes.
Yeah.
So when you're putting them in, it's surely like for that person that's underneath, they've got to be thinking, well, you're hiring them to help me, like, because that's what you've told me.
Yeah.
So then I would like to meet them. Do you know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people take a job for their boss, right? So if a new boss is coming in, they should be aware of that. What kind of questions did they ask?
So one of them, like, I could not get a read on him at all, and he actually works for me at Tide now, so I can't have been that bad, right? And I could not get a read on him at all, and he was asking about like kind of my values, my management style, what my thoughts are about how I would hire, and like my philosophies around that, which was good. And then the other was the product director for FinCrime at Zeps as well, who I'd be working with as a peer. And she was asking about like what kind of technologies that I'm used to, have I done this with systems and things like that. And like it was.
And
it
they
was
were
a really
together, kind of asking.
Yeah, they did it.
Yeah,
they did it
cool.
together. They like double teamed me on it. So it was. Yeah, it was good, and like it was good because then you can kind of on my side as well. Like it's, I think people forget that interviews are two ways, right? Like, and like I could get a sense of who I was going to be working with the majority of the time, and they were just great people.
You can also tell, I think, with questioning when you're interviewing with someone like a peer or someone who's underneath you, the kinds of questions they tell you are a window into the culture.
Yeah.
So if they say, do you hire and fire people?
Yeah.
Or
how many people have you sacked in the last month?
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever used Excel? Like it kind of tells you, if they're asking these sorts of questions, you can kind of get a little insight into what's worrying them about the company and their job. Okay. And so that was quite a big job as well when you were there. There was a lot of work to be done. It was during an interesting time for them because they
purchased another brand. So they were called World Remit, and then they purchased and acquired Sendwave, who were considerably smaller than them at the time, but then they'd put this like umbrella like brand called Zeps, and that's what they're still called now, and it's got the two brands underneath it. So when I got in, I was hired for World Remit, but the Sendwave brand was there, and they were kept quite separate. But then when I got there, they were wanting to actually kind of so it was a bit rocky. I basically joined. The boss that I'd gone to work for took voluntary redundancy 2 months after me being there. So then I lined straight into the CEO of Europe, who he called me the other day. He's a really cool guy, but like he does not suffer fools at all. So that was a bit, and he didn't know anything about FinCrime at all. So really, like he knew the basics, but he wasn't a FinCrime expert. He was happy to admit it, right? He was like, he worked for like gaming companies and stuff before, right? Like it was a different world.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
So then I lined into him for a while, and then 4 months after I got there, the CEO left, and then they got a new CEO in. So that completely threw everybody into turmoil. And then,
but how does that impact you? Actually, I'm curious because you're trying to make changes. You're obviously trying to get decisions made, and the senior leadership is just changing around you.
Yeah, it was just. Yeah, it was wild. It was just trying to get the lay of the land of the politics of the place was impossible because it just kept changing every 10 minutes. But luckily, like the CEO that I worked for, like backed me, and he was like, "Look, what do you need to do?" And I was like, "These are like, and it was a job that needed a lot of short-term work rather than thinking about a strategy immediately. You couldn't because there was just too much stuff to do. So it was
what kind
good.
of stuff was it doing? Like tech implementation or just?
Yeah, it was like the maturity level. We just needed to get the maturity level up, right? So they put a vendor in, but the person that had been looking after one of the vendors didn't really know what they were doing that much with it. So like we had to go and fix that, and then like the actual architecture itself was like a little bit messy and a little bit clunky, and we had a lot of incidents, so we had to fix some of that stuff. And it was just all of it really. It just needed more structure. It was just typical fintech, right? Like by the seat of their pants, and then didn't really have time to think about governance or anything else because they were just blowing up, right? And just the amount of customers just went wild. So and then the big one was the fraud, right? Like it was in remittance. So the fraud is you have to pay for it, right? It's big losses, and that's there, and it's kind of they've got this balancing act because they make money per payment, but they lose money on the payments. So you've got this like this tightly managed balance between am I blocking too much?
Yeah.
But I need to keep the fraud loss down because that's straight off the bottom line. Or are you letting enough through commercially, like to make sure that you're there, right, and you're not blocking everybody and getting negative reviews and stopping money coming through, essentially. So,
how do you you identify a fraudulent transaction in remittance? What's a big red flag?
It's quite tough. A lot of the time, so, you're talking about, in this particular instance, the majority of the money was coming from like kind of developed countries into less developed countries. So it would be like from the US or Europe or Australia into Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And in Africa, they use like mobile money a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So they top up their phone and they pay with stuff on their credit
okay.
on their phone, because a lot of people are not banked.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. That's the problem they're solving for, right? And you've got the culture is that like that they'll villagers and groups and families will save up, and they'll send one of their family to go to a developed place to study, and then once they have kind of got a job, like their two bills are rent, send money home, the rest is mine. But like it's like built into the culture, they need to send this money home, which is really like really nice when you start to go into this and being like, oh, this is I did not know this existed. I'm so sheltered from this as a UK born person in this lovely developed country that we've got, right? So then when they're doing that, you're kind of looking for, they're using their card to pay. So you're looking for compromised card type signals, right? So you're going, let's look at the device ID. Have they got a VPN that they're using? Have I seen this IP address before? Are they doing frequent payments all the time? Like, have they passed 3DS if they're in the UK and EU? And there's lots of signals like that, really.
Because given the context of them, what they're doing, you don't want to block those payments, right? Like their money could be really crucial to who they're sending it to.
Yeah, and the way that the difficult bit for me was, and this is why it actually changed my thinking when it comes to financial crime a little bit as well, because the way that they actually transact is completely all the typologies that you've been told about when you're in banking, right?
Really?
So there'll be like one person in the village that collects all the money for the families and disperses it out. So you've got multiple people paying into one person, which is like a big red flag, right?
Yeah.
Like and then like multiple payments of structuring, because they'll be taking money. And then like they'll be sending it on, then they'll be sending out to bills and things like that. Like there's
it's interesting, isn't it?
It like completely changes it. So then actually it's really important. And all these countries that you're sending money to are the countries where, if you were in banking, like when I used to work at all the banks at KPMG, they'd be like, oh God, they sent it there. That must be dodgy. You can't send money
just
there.
A blanket approach.
Yeah, exactly right. What are the regulations of that, right? High risk third countries. We just go, nope, don't like those countries, which is a bit off when you actually go like and look into what they're doing.
With the intention of what people are doing it for. Yeah. But it's interesting, like casting that UK lens on it, not just from a FCA regulatory perspective, but like how we use our money and how we spend our money. It's interesting that you've had the experience that you can kind of step back and has it changed how you set controls?
Yeah, it changes the way that I've now got a massive bugbear where the way that you set risk needs to be data driven, not assumptions driven. Like, and there's a lot of like assumptions driving of risk sometimes, right? Right. It's a high risk country, so therefore everything needs EDD, and you're like, does it? Like, if you actually look at the traffic that's going through there, how much bad stuff have you got going into that country? Like, can we look a little bit further down and try and use extra signals on top of the country and things, right? And I think a lot of places are going in this direction, right? Because there's a lot more focus on friction and people not getting blocked, and like the fintechs have kind of brought this thought process into mainstream banking, I think, a lot more now, right? If you look at how good the apps are for some of the mainstream banks now compared to what they were 5 years ago, it's wild, right?
Oh, it is wild. But actually, you've just brought me into a really good point about your job at Tide, which we can nicely go into. So when I was recruiting that role, do you know, every guest I have here, they're like, yeah, some other recruiter got me the job. I'm like, fuck's sake. So anyway.
I do get jobs. I don't just do this. I promise.
Mortifying. Anyway, so when I was recruiting that job, one of their key points was that they wanted to combine transaction monitoring and fraud, but overlaying that, the brief was, we need them to understand the friction of the customer. We don't want just someone who's going to come in and block. We need to understand the customer journey and everything. And I was like, I know one guy. Well, actually, Ian was like, I know one guy. You need to talk to Ross. So I don't even really do any work.
I was going to say Ian was like, have you seen this one?
So when you came in the interview process, was that something that you discussed in your approach?
Yeah, so the interview process was I spoke to the CEO of the UK, George, and he was, because there was no, like, I now work line into the my boss is now the SVP of operations, who's He's great. He's a great guy. I'm really enjoying working with him. But when I first joined, I was interviewing. It was straight into George, who was the UK and EU CEO. So and the actual first interview with George for the first half hour was not too much into subject matter. I think he was just trying to feel me out a little bit. Like he was asking like things like, if you didn't do this job, what would you do? And like questions like that.
Tide do put a lot of emphasis on culture though, right? Which rightfully so.
Which was nice, and then I think he knew what was to come. I think was really the real reason why, right? Like this role they'd really struggled to hire for, I think. So they put it through and it was quite high profile because obviously the PSR regulations were coming in. So they really wanted somebody strong on fraud to help on that, but then they were aware that they needed somebody that was going to be good at all the other areas as well, because it's not just that. So when I was going through it, I ended up meeting basically the whole exec. Like they put me through the chief administration officer, and then I met Becky, the CRO, and then finally I did a panel, and it had the group CEO and basically all the exec on pretty much. And in the final interview, I had to do a presentation and basically say, tell me how you'd set up a high performing team and taking into account these points like how would you balance customer friction versus compliance, and how would you set up the team for success, and what were the key things that you do, and that kind of thing. So yeah, put together this presentation. And
when you're doing those presentations, because it's becoming more common, how detailed do you go? Like how long was the presentation?
I mean, you know this. I don't know why I feel like you're poking at it, because you know that I was like completely like didn't know what was happening. So I did this presentation, and like I'm quite detail oriented, right? That's what I like. I like to get into the data and be detailed. So this presentation was pretty detailed, and it was supposed to be like I think 20 minutes, within 20 minutes for questions. I think I talked for like 35 minutes or 40 minutes, and I couldn't stop. And then at the end, I was like, "Are there any questions?" And there weren't any.
Doesn't that it puts the fear of God on you, doesn't it?
I think George asked like a token question just to help me out, so I didn't feel too bad. But then like there was not really anything. And then they were like, "Do you want to ask some questions?" So I asked some questions to Oliver, and like the culture there and how they look at compliance like was a big thing that I was looking for. And he answered all the questions like in a way that I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Like this is where I want to go. And I was trying to play it cool, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm sure you were real
I've
cool.
got plenty of options. I don't have any options, but I have plenty of options. And I definitely don't want. I don't want this job. I could get other things.
Like
I really want this job.
Pretending you're not that interested in it.
And I went back to my wife. I was like, I really want it. And then I remember straight after the presentation, I think I texted you and I was like, I think I've messed this up, like, because they didn't ask a question, and I talked way over, and I was like completely panicked myself into it. And then you called me to tell me I got it, and I was in the airport about to fly on a stag do, and I was
remember,
like,
and I was away, wasn't I? I was in Barcelona. I remember you texted me that. You said, I've kicked it. And I laughed because anytime someone tells me they've kicked it, they've usually done really well. And it's the opposite way usually. And then they called me straight away and they loved you. I think the detail orientation that you have in that presentation, sometimes people go the wrong way and they go way too high level. And it looks like you don't understand the nuts and bolts and the mechanics of what you're kind of doing. Talking about the team size, so how big was it at Zaps in the end, and how big is Tide?
So at Zeps, I started off with the Fin Crime strategy team, which was basically just an analytics team, but it kind of it was kind of dictating the controls that we needed. So I wasn't in charge of the product team. They had a product director, but like we were kind of setting the strategy, what it should look like, and all the rules and all that kind of stuff. So it started at like I think it was 10 that it started off with, but then as people moved on and left, they sometimes didn't backfill, and I just kind of absorbed extra things. So I think by the end of it, like I was working with the and the the woman that I talked about with the PhD. She was the SVP of Ops, so she let me kind of lean in and help run operations because the head of Fin Crime operations had left at that point, and then the product director left. So I kind of pseudo took that on as well.
Great though, right? Like when the opportunity presents itself organically like that, like yes, please give me more.
Yeah, and then they moved me out of, so they reorged the whole business, and they moved me into product, and then under a new VP of product, they also hired like 2 layers above me, and then I didn't know till like the day before. So that was kind of one of the ones where I was a bit like, I don't think they see me as somebody that's going to be That's what I felt like, a leader here, right? They told me, you know, they didn't say that was the case, but like I made it quite clear to them that like I felt quite kind of disrespected about how the move had been done and stuff, and that was it. And like I worked really hard and I left on good terms and amicable, but like when that happens, and like you said, like sometimes it kind of makes you go, is this somewhere that it does value me as somebody that's going to see me as a leader, or do they see me as like he can get it done, but I think that's his cap and I don't.
But it's interesting, isn't it? There's so much danger or things to be considered when you do hire someone above someone, because it really the attrition is to be expected. Like, why would you stay when the position's gone?
Yeah, and it was the fact that they'd added 2 layers in, not just one, right? But then one of the layers then left, so it was 1 layer, and like both of those guys were really nice guys, and like there was nothing against them. It was just a situation, right? That's just how it made me feel. So I was like, at this point, like, and I really wanted to get back into banking. Like I kind of I'd done like 2.5 years, and I was like, remittance is fine, but it's, you know, when it comes to financial crime, it's not all that interesting because it's just peer-to-peer payments, right? And like, and I was like, okay, and it's not very transferable. I think if I'd have got more senior there, I don't know where I would have ended up. I would have been pigeonholed, I think.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So that's why when Tide came along, I was like, all right, cool. So I think I was about 100. There was like about 100 people in operations at Zeps, and then I had the 10, and then the product team were like 7 or 8, something like that. So, you know, probably about 120, something like that in total, that I was kind of pseudo managing at points, like, and was looking after, really. For all intents and purposes, like I was involved in all those teams heavily and running them and setting them up and strategizing everything. So it was like that. And then at Tide now, it's 280.
That's an insane number of people. That was my whole high school.
Yeah, it's wild. Tell me about it.
No, it wasn't my high school, but bigger. But how do you structure it? How many direct reports do you have then?
So I structured it so they'd already done some of the structuring before I got there, which was nice. And I actually kind of agreed with the structure they had. So I have 3 verticals. So I have AML and prohibited activities. So that kind of has payment screening and stuff in there as well. I have fraud, and then I have financial crime investigations and reporting. Yeah. So that reporting team was just SARS before. But in the last year, we're building out a financial crime intelligence unit, and like been way more kind of intelligence led when it comes to that kind of side of things, which has been really fun to do. And so those are the 3 verticals, and then I've kind of got like horizontals that are like supporting functions. So I've got like an area operations function that help to check the SLAs and keep on top of the reporting and the data and everything, and kind of do some project management. And then we've got like the product team, but we didn't have a product director for the last 6 months, so I've been helping out there. But then we've now got a product director in who joined on Monday. That's why I'm down in London as well, which has been great to meet him. So that's been really fun. And yeah, that's what it kind of looks like. So my directs, like when the product director's taken back the product team, would be 5.
And how has there been any change in your management style since joining Tide, given that you've now got this empire underneath you?
I think I haven't. I don't think I've changed my style. I'm just trying to be a bit more educated in how to run bigger teams in the most effective manner. So I try and read up on it and read some books and some method and like some kind of techniques that you can use and things to think about. And like, I think the main thing that I've thought about when I'm going to Tide is I've been way more structured. I've spent a lot of time in my first, it's a year now actually, like pretty much this week, which is weird, right? It feels like that.
Yeah, it does.
But I've spent a lot of time thinking about setting up the structure and setting up kind of planning cycles of how we do things, operating rhythms, and making sure there's like a heartbeat. Because I think when you're in the fintech world, it's just chaos, right? Yeah. Like it's just organized chaos, and that's just the nature of the beast of working in it. And that's the bit I enjoy. But if you don't set some kind of consistent heartbeat throughout where people know how to get like to come back to it, like it's all right, everything's going on, but we're still going to do this. Like it's still going to be this. Like this meeting is every week, this one's every month, this one's every quarter. These are, and like setting up like, these are the KPIs we need to move. Everything needs to be outcome driven. Like you need to put numbers against it. That's what I've spent a lot of time doing, which has been really good. And it's been a different challenge because I've got people in, like, this is the biggest team that I've had. I've got a team that are in a lot of people that are in Hyderabad. I've got a lot of people in Sofia, and then I've got a bunch of people in the UK as well. So different cultures, figuring that out, figuring
Yeah,
out
of
how I
course.
manage appropriately in those places. Like I visited Hyderabad this year for 2 weeks and it was incredible. Had a great time with the team, loved it.
What's the main nuances that you have noticed between the three?
I would say that communication style and general kind of culture, like the disposition of the culture, right? So I think like the India guys, like if you put change in, they're quite, I feel like they're quite used to it, and they're just kind of like, just get on with it. The attitude sometimes is a bit like they just kind of crack on with the job, but it's really hard to get out of them the feedback of what they actually think. Like that's been the bit. So I spent a lot of time while I was in Hyderabad just trying to be around them. Like
Building
I ate lunch
trust
with them
and,
every day. I ate dinner with them every day. I think my head of fraud wanted to kill me by the end. She was like, you're like a Duracell bunny. You don't stop. Because I was like, we were going into the office at like, because they work UK hours, right? Because they're serving the UK
Yeah.
market, so they don't start until like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
But then I was making a stay with me until like 11 p.m, 12 p.m. Because I
right.
was like, well, I want to see the night shift guys and eat dinner with them. So I would we'd have lunch with the first guys, then I'd have lunch, like dinner with the night shift, some of the night shift guys coming in, and then like they've got a table tennis table, so I played a load of them at table tennis and pool, and I was like, come on then, and I was winding them up because I'm still unbeaten at pool. That's all we need to say.
All
But I got beat at table tennis, so I don't want to talk about that. I just wanted to feel like them to feel like I was approachable and not
a
like,
human and understood who they are.
Yeah, and just a guy that's working with them, right? Like not like anything other than that. So, and that was invaluable, that trip, I think, because like since I've come back, like a lot of them that are the more senior guys in India have opened up a lot. Like they're giving me feedback. We've got better relationships with results. There's nothing better than just sitting down and having a drink and chatting to somebody. Like,
but I mean, we talk about the working from home kind of remote culture too much, but it is true. It just takes 1 or 2 trips a year for that rapport to build and that trust to build.
Yeah.
Talking about the books that you were reading, is there anything you'd recommend?
I read a book and I recommended it to one of my directs as well, called Scaling People. It's by a woman who was the chief operating officer at Stripe, and before that she was at Google. And it's like, what I like about it is it's really practical. Like it's not just like philosophical kind of high level like fluff. It's like actual like sorry, but it's actually like, well, this is what I think about and this is how I did it.
Yeah. But sometimes there's a lack of those books around, I think. There's a lot of people with lots of ideas, but having someone who's actually done it.
Yeah, and she actually puts the templates that she used in the book.
Yeah.
Like the actual ones from, she'll be like, this is what I used at Stripe. There you go, there's a template.
Because it's always a lot of university professors that write these kind of books, you know, or they've been studying it for years. I'm like, but how many teams because like you say, if you've not done it, I can tell someone how to ride a bike, but if you haven't ridden one, I'm not that interested.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I hate when people give the really generic, fluffy answers, and you're like, that's not helpful for me at all. Like and I'm not convinced that you actually know how to put this in practice.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing.
Completely.
So yeah, much like second line and first line, right? But I won't say that too much. Oh.
No, I mean, I'm not going to comment. Okay, so you're at Tide. You've got your empire. You're learning the management style. Is there any like goals or plans that you've got for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I've putting together and need to kind of finalize and agree like a bit of a 2-year strategy of what I want it to look like. And the main areas for me are bringing so the first thing I did when I got in was hire analytics leads for both transaction monitoring and fraud.
Where did you get them from? Like what kind of backgrounds?
So one of them worked for me.
Easy.
Right. which was great.
Controversial
so
stealing.
that was no. He'd left for a year. There was no poaching there. Don't you worry about it. Like he'd already gone. So so that was a no brainer for me because I just knew what I was getting.
Yeah.
And then the other guy, like we were really struggling. Like I was getting no CVs, and then I got one CV in, and our internal recruiter was like, you need to meet this guy now. And I was like, okay, cool. So I jumped to a call and I was like, yeah, I love this guy. Let's do it. Because when I was at Zeps, I took somebody to do the same role at Zeps from KPMG. Yeah. So I took one of the guys that I knew with me there. But then he was kind of done with the fintech life. Like he's an old soul. He's considerably younger than me, but he's already living in the countryside and
I
like
love that energy.
semi-retired. And I'm quite jealous of his attitude.
That's
if
who
I'm
I am,
honest,
like-
he's like, oh, I just walk the dog, and I've got a small child now. I love to go and push the pram, and I'm like, oh my god, like he's
easy
incredible.
life, yeah.
He's great. He's so funny. So then that was my gap really. Otherwise, I'd have just taken the two of them again, right? Because I knew they could do it. But yeah, that was the gap. And yeah, I'm looking for. I need somebody. I don't need an engineering level of coding. I need somebody that understands data and understands tuning and understands like the actual subject matter and can code enough to be dangerous, which is really hard to find.
It's really hard. And actually, it's interesting to hear the way that you talk about it, because it is I would say, 60% of the roles that we're getting through have some kind of touch point on that at the moment. And it's really hard to, this is what I was asking where you got them from, because I used to steal them from consultancy.
Yeah.
Because
there's like I said, like that was what I did for years at KPMG. My whole team did that. But like, and then I kind of came into the world of banking and went, oh, actually, it's quite niche what we do.
Yeah, because many of the banks just outsourced it and they didn't even have internal teams to do it. And when they did, they were like,
what they do is I think a lot of the time the banks will go and buy a vendor that's a tool that's quite a low bar of entry for somebody to be able to use it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's like got a pretty GUI and you can do the rules on it, but then there's a lot of limitations to how complex you can go with what you're trying to.
You text me that word once, GUI. What does it actually mean again?
Graphic user interface, like as in like the nice little screen that you click buttons on, right? Like that kind of thing. So you don't have to be able to code, basically. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So an iPhone for coding.
Yeah. That's it. So I think they go down that route a lot of the time, and that's why you've got some really big tools out there that do that kind of thing. But I don't like it that much because I've always had people that can code, and if we needed to, we could just code up our own rules if we wanted to. But like you want to use tools to make sure you've got all the kind of error handling, fail safes, redundancy, and all that kind of stuff, and so that's why I use those. But I always get guys that can just they can code it up and they've got that mindset and they're invaluable. Like when you can find them.
They are invaluable. And I had Ian, I haven't released his podcast yet and he's really annoyed about it, but I recorded with Ian and I was talking about his KYC nation that he's got that all out of work. And we're talking like if they can upskill and become coding, if they could just do something like that and get into a consultancy or get in somewhere, it's foolproof. Like it's the one thing that's going to be in demand for a very long time.
Everybody, like the amount of people in my network, the thing that I probably get asked most about is, do you know anybody that can do TM rules?
I get asked, and the people want them like tomorrow, and I'm like, there are 15 people.
Yeah,
Exactly
right. And I just didn't realize this when I was doing it. I was like, I just didn't realize it was that niche at all. And then when you come out, you kind of go, oh. Well,
I know when you were talking about the girl that you pulled in from the grad scheme and taught her coding, I thought, what a gift. When you're at KPMG, like, was she doing it now still?
She's still at KPMG, yeah.
Does she want a job?
She's still in the team, yeah. I'll have to ask.
Okay, then. So I am midway through my career. I am in financial crime. What's your best advice if I wanted to go into that way?
So I think you have to, when it comes to, you've got two, like, thought processes, I think. You can go down do you want to go down the analytical, like, skilled approach? That's basically going to mean that you're going to put yourself in a path where you're going to manage probably smaller teams, highly skilled analytical people in your team, which is a different style of management completely to operations, right? Like they're just not driven by the same things, and so you have to change your style there. So and then you kind of accepting that you're going to cap yourself at a ceiling yourself, because there's only certain seniority you get if that's what you like to do, right? Eventually you have to move into more operational side and actually take on more stuff. So there's that train of thought, and then the other is, do you like doing the mass operations stuff? I would, but if it was somebody young now, I would tell them to go down the analytical route, because like we've talked about, the operational stuff, there's too much of a risk of it being outsourced abroad, right? So I think that it particularly in first line, that's what I would
and
say.
Hard skills, I know you could SQL, Python, all that kind of stuff. What kind of hard skills would you recommend?
I think if you learn SQL, you're dangerous. Everybody has it. That's the thing. So I think if you can learn a bit of SQL, which means that you can churn through way more data. Like most people that you find, then you always go, oh, we've got a data guy, this is it, and then you meet them and they're just on 15 Excel sheets and they get lost in it and they're trying to do it, and you're like, this is just going to not give me any confidence that this is right. Just learn a bit of SQL and if you understand Excel and you understand, VLOOKUPs and how you structure data, you'll be able to do SQL. Do you know what I mean?
What's SQL? Just in case someone doesn't know.
Structured querying language. So it's like it's the databases basically to that everybody's heard of, like relational databases. So it's like your transactions will be stored in a relational database, like line by line each transaction, and then you've kind of got all your customer data in a table, and then you can start to link them together and start to develop patterns and churn your data that way. So,
okay, so I learnt SQL. What else would you look for?
I think it depends what kind of person you are. Like if you learn on the job, then I think once you've got SQL, I think there's enough of a demand for it that if you show willing, you could probably get an entry-level job in financial crime.
I agree.
I think if you can kind of go, look, I've watched a bunch of podcasts, I've listened to this stuff, I've read these books, I understand roughly how, like, what typologies are and things like that. I can code, I'm hungry. I think you'll find a job. I think you could just start as like, and even what I would also suggest is there's always data analyst jobs going. So try and get into a company that you want to work at as a data analyst, and then just find your way to the people that in fin crime, and then show them the value of it. Sometimes like the people that work in fin crime don't always know the value of what analytics can bring.
I agree. Yeah, actually, it's interesting. Just sort of to wrap up that point. Almost everyone that I know that does your job started doing a more techie job and accidentally started doing fin crime because there was a need.
Yeah.
You don't really care about fin crime at the start. I'm sure you do now, but
anti-terrorism was the start. All right, that was the cool name for it at the start. But it's basically that. I actually fell into financial crime and then saw somebody coding, so it was probably a little bit, but it was around the same time. So but I agree with you. Right, you find people that are data analysts that then move into fin crime, and if you can upskill yourself in the fin crime bit, which doesn't take as long as coding. If you've upskilled yourself on coding, you can upskill yourself on financial crime, then you're dangerous.
Yeah,
because you actually understand and can you're 2 steps ahead of what you're doing on the analytics, right? Like, and kind of looking for patterns and things like that. And in this world now, like, if you're working for a company like Tide, like the number of transactions we do is huge, and the number of members, they've got 1.5 million members now. Like, and then you think they're all doing transactions. If you can't do coding, you're going to really struggle to be able to generate any meaningful statistics out of what you're doing.
Agree.
So.
Interesting. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. It's been interesting. You're a delight.
Thanks.
As usual. And I did find you a job, not Ian.
Yeah. You tell everybody that's fine.
Tell myself that. Right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.